I think a lot of people know that they want to be lawyers from when they're going through their undergraduate education. It's also fine to not know. I tell people, it doesn't really matter at what stage in life you decide as long as you're confident in your decision.
Welcome to the You Are Lawyer podcast. Victoria Inoyo. How are you today?
I'm doing great. It's the new year, so happy new year to everyone.
I'm really excited to talk to you and share your story. Would you tell the audience what you are doing and what a typical day is like for you?
Yeah, so again, my name is Victoria Inoyo. I'm currently a director of advising at Juris Education. As someone who is a first generation American, the first in my family to go to law school in the United States, it was really important to me that I pay that forward. So I help students with the law school admissions process through Juris Education. Everything from figuring out what schools to apply to, helping them craft their personal statement and tell a really convincing story, all the way up until scholarship help and interview help. So that's what I do currently at Juris Education. I'm also a lawyer. I currently work in creative and marketing for Apple. That's really, really fun. I work on all shot on iPhone campaigns. So that's what I'm doing right now. Really busy person, but really enjoyable work.
Yeah. So if you guys are watching on YouTube, I just got the biggest smile. Of course, when you hear a brand you recognize, you're going to be like, what?
Yeah.
But the truth is, I really want to dig into you helping people apply for and get into law school. Because when I applied for law school, I only knew one lawyer, and they have been practicing for about 20 years. And let me tell you, they did not prepare me whatsoever. Whatsoever. I am a numbers person. So I sat down, I was like, the LSAT's going to cost this. I'm going to need this. Oh, I guess I'll buy a book to prepare. I guess I'll buy a book, right? I think the first time I took it, I just walked in and was like, all right, let's see what it's about. Don't do that. Don't do that. So, why did you decide to work in this field? Was it easy for you to apply to law school, or did it make sense to you, or what?
It was really difficult. I can't lie. It was really difficult. I felt like I took the stairs. I know a lot of people take the elevator. And I would say this program at Juris Education is taking the elevator because you're talking to a lot of people who have seen this process in recent years and have helped multiple students throughout this process each cycle. So for me, it was quite difficult to the point where I took pretty much a year to really study and go through the process after I graduated from college. Uh, and being able to help people who I can see myself in them. They're like, hey, nobody in my family's a lawyer. Like you said, like I know one lawyer maybe, but they went to school like back in the 1990s or the early 2000s. It's very, very different. And the law school admissions process is constantly evolving. So I think this work is something that made me feel really fulfilled given where I was coming from with my background.
So, you said you took a year before getting into law school or before taking the LSAT and doing all of that process. When do most people start thinking about law school and trying to get into law school? Is it while they're still in undergrad?
Yeah. I think a lot of people know that they want to be lawyers from when they're going through their undergraduate education. It's also fine to not know. I work with a lot of people who've had a whole career before they decide to become attorneys. So I tell people, it doesn't really matter at what stage in life you decide as long as you're confident in your decision because that can really come through in your application materials, whether this is something that you really want to do or you're just doing because you don't know what else to do. So
I love that. I think that that is very, very true. I remember when I first wrote my admission statement, I was like, oh, I love to write. And then you go back and you proofread and you're like, well, I didn't really tell them why I would be a good lawyer and why I should fit in and why this school would work, right?
yeah.
And for me specifically, I went to law school at 28. And so I had a career and I was like, of course you guys are going to take me. I've been doing something else. I promise this is what I want. Nobody wanted to read that, right? They want to know how this school is going to help me. Because also coming from corporate America, I was like, I'll write one statement and send it to 8 schools. You can't do that, right? When I was applying to UC Berkeley, I wanted to be an environmental lawyer. When I was applying somewhere else, I was like, oh, I really like criminal defense. You need to talk about why that school is going to give you those things, right? And so I bumped my head, and thankfully I did get into 3 different schools and I was able to choose. But like, I love that Juris Education exists so that you can help people do it the right way, right?
Definitely, definitely. I agree with that. There's a lot that goes into the personal statement. I work on the personal statement with students for months. Some students they can get it done in a couple weeks, but definitely not on the first try for anyone, including me.
Yeah. So, Juris Education, is that your company or is it a company that you're working with outside of your typical 9 to 5?
It's a company that I'm working with outside of my typical 9 to 5.
Okay. Why? I mean, you're already working a big job. Why did you decide this is still important as well?
It's mainly for the mentorship. Again, it's something that makes me feel really fulfilled. I knew I wanted to pay this forward given all the research that I already had and the people who just reached out to me. They're like, "Oh, Victoria, like your story really inspires me. And I want to be able to work with you, or can you read my personal statement, or can you give me some insight on what it's like to work in like entertainment, law, media, technology, any of those fields?" Again, great 9 to 5, love it. But when it comes down to more passion projects or things that are just fulfilling, that's why I do it.
Yeah. Okay. And so, have you heard of Jazz Talks Law, attorney Jasmine Robinson?
No, I have not. Feel free to let me know.
Okay. Well, I'm like, I definitely want to connect you to. She was one of the first people I talked to. So, your recording is for season 16 of the podcast. I think I talked to Jasmine in season 1 back in 2020. And her whole thing is that only 5% of lawyers are Black Americans or, first generation, and why we really need to help with mentorship because people are getting lost. And I
Yeah.
found that so compelling. And I think it's interesting that in 6 years, that's still a really big need, right? People are still like, where's the mentorship? Who can help me? Let's stop with the gatekeeping. Someone roll down the ladder and tell me what I need to do. So,
I agree. I agree. A big reason why I am where I am today is because I had such great mentors and they told me the different career paths you can go in. Because one thing I also do tell people that I work with and just in general people in the legal profession is just because you go to law school doesn't mean you have to be a lawyer. Like just because you go to law school doesn't mean you have to work at a firm. You can work at a company. You can do business affairs like what I do. You can just go and start your own business. You can do social media. There's so many things you can do. And I think as you said, like it's just a lack of information that's not being handed down because certain groups have just been the doors have not been as widely open for us. So yeah.
yeah. So, I have a couple of questions. Let's go back a little bit. Why did you decide to
Mhm.
become a lawyer?
Yeah. So I knew I wanted to be an attorney from young. I didn't know where in the legal profession I would fit in though. So I went to DC during undergrad, did a program there, lived there for a couple months, worked in DC, and I was like, I definitely want to be a lawyer now, and I definitely don't want to work in politics. So then from there, I came back. I live in LA, and I realized like I really like the creative space. I love art, I love movies, I love TV, I love film, I love social media, I like music. And I remember I went to Coachella and I saw Beyonce and something clicked in my head. I'm like, there has to be lawyers behind all of this. Like there has to be people behind all of this. And the best advice that I got from another black attorney was find out what you're good at. So if you think you can be a good lawyer, that's fair. But also find an industry that you like. Because if you can get in the intersection of those two, you will be more inclined to do your job and do it well. So when I found that there was all these people working in the entertainment field, that's when I said, okay, this is the lane I want to go down. And I chose the schools that I was going to apply to based off of that. I knew I wanted to be in New York, LA, Atlanta, or Miami. I ended up staying in LA and then I just interned at all the opportunities I could in the entertainment field and then graduated. And now I'm working on creative campaigns for All Shot on iPhone and I love it. So it's something that it took a journey. I tell people it takes a journey, but really knowing what you want to do in this profession or just having an idea of what you want to do in this profession can take you really far.
Yeah, I really love that. I want to tell you I'm jealous that you had a plan because I did not. My plan took too many paths. I was on a roller coaster. I went to law school for environmental law. I've always been a tree hugger. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to get it. I'm going to do it. But I went to law school in Louisiana. I'm from Ohio. And in Louisiana, there's a bunch of lobbyists in big oil. And they're like, oh, if you can advocate for the trees, you can advocate for us. And I was like, wait, I was not expecting that. I was like, wait, hold on. So I never wanted to go to big law. I always wanted to work at an environmental, company. My roommate, she wanted to do big law. Of course, we switched. She gets out of law school and goes to a private place. I go to big law for 6 years in IP law. And that's when I realized I liked creative. And then I liked marketing and I liked operations. But I had no idea. Like when I was in law school, I enjoyed it. I did. And I see that you said that you would go to law school again. But I mostly liked running for parliamentarian. I liked being editor in chief. I wanted those things. And then when I got out, I was like, well, that makes sense because this is operations. This is planning 4 months out. This is why I'm recording in January for an episode that's coming out in May. Like this is,
Yeah.
I thought that was the legal part. And then I was like, no, your brain just thinks operations and, strategy. So all that to say, I don't know if I would have went to law school if I knew I wasn't going to practice forever. Do you ever have any people who work with Juris Education who say, I want to go to court? You know what I mean? Is that why they want to go to law school? Or are they kind of discouraged when you tell them, no, you can do anything with a law degree? Are they still motivated or what?
Yeah, well, first of all, I admire your story. I think it's really important, especially in 2026, that people I feel like gone are the times where people do the same thing for 40 years and retire. Like people have seasons. So when people come to Juris Education, they tell me they want to be a lawyer. I'm like, okay, what kind of lawyer do you want to be? And I tell them my story. It's like, I don't know if I'll still be doing the same thing in 2045. Like, I don't know. But I do know that this is what I want to do now. And then there will be another chapter later. So people typically come and tell me what they're kind of interested in. But I do have a lot of people who say, you know what? I had a career before this, or I just think it's something I'd be good at. I had an internship and I want to explore it. And that's when we have deeper conversations. And I say, okay, why? Like, what does your best day, what does the best Tuesday look like for you? And describe it from beginning to end. And if it doesn't involve, litigating, if it doesn't involve briefs and memos and all of that, I tell them, okay, do you know there's this other side of the business called transactional law? And then there's even this other side that's in-house, and you definitely you'll have people that you hire outside to do all that work, and you're more on the business side. And there's even business affairs, which is mainly business, but a lot of people just have law degrees. So I tell them there's all these options because, again, a lot of people just don't know the options afforded to them. A lot of people who come to Juris Education do know what they want to do, but at the same time, a lot of people don't know what else there is to do. So
okay. So a couple of things, just some foundational stuff. Does Juris Education serve clients all over the country or worldwide or just in California?
All over the country, the country, and also internationally as well. So I do work with some people who are coming in as international students.
Okay, love that. And so if someone came to me and said, hey, Kyla, I stumbled upon your podcast. I want to be a lawyer. What would I tell them to be like, oh my gosh, Juris Education is where you want to go? What should I say?
Yeah, I would say if you want to go to law school and the process is overwhelming, you don't know where to start, you want to maximize the information you have in terms of the admissions process. Maybe you're having some anxiety on telling your story in a way that would really resonate with someone who is reading thousands of these. I would say this is the good place to be. This is what I wish I had. And I did reach out to a couple people, and I did have some people read my personal statement who kind of worked in what I do now. But Juris Education is beginning to end. From what schools to apply to, what informational events to go to, letters of recommendation, optional essays, interviews, everything from beginning until you start as a 1L, we do. And I think that's really helpful for people who may not have that much information on the admissions process.
Yeah. And what I really like, what I'm hearing is that you're kind of helping people do the hard work that they may not have done before, right? Like, okay, so you want to be a lawyer, so what schools? Oh, well, I've heard that Howard was great. Well, what do you want to do? Entertainment law, right? And maybe you haven't, maybe you haven't had those conversations with yourself because you're like, no, I know 2 people that went to Howard. That's where I want to go, right? And so I feel like you guys are going to help people work on that mindset piece, kind of get down to the details of it all.
Yeah, definitely. You hit it on the nail. There's schools, there's great schools. A lot of people care about prestige, right? But there's certain schools that will open up doors for you for what you specifically want to do. So if someone tells me they want to work for a nonprofit or they want to work in public interest and then they want to go to school in Nebraska, I said, "Have you thought about the East Coast? Have you thought about DC? Have you thought about New York?" Someone tells me they love sports and they're not thinking about the Texas or the Miami or the Chicago. Like, I would say these are things that we do on a day-to-day basis that we think of quickly so that you're not spinning your wheels.
I love that. So if you are listening to this and you're spinning your wheels, or you know someone who is, they want to go to the University of Oregon just because it sounds great. That was me. Tell them about Juris Education, because I did all of this myself, and I would imagine that anyone that doesn't work with Juris Education does this on their own, but it takes so much longer. It takes so much frustration, right? Where they could just reach out to an expert and be like, help me narrow this down, help me make sense of all this stuff.
Exactly. It's the difference between taking the stairs and the elevator. It's not that you can't get there. It just may take much, much longer. And with you'll get there pretty quickly.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so let's talk about your current career. Just a couple of things with why did you decide not to work at Apple or at a technology company like in their legal department? Did you strategically choose to work in marketing and stuff like that and business operations because you enjoy it?
Yeah, so I had the opportunity to work in business affairs, which is what I do now. I had the opportunity to intern for business affairs at Disney when I was in my second year of law school, and I loved it. I loved it. I found that I enjoy seeing things come to life. I enjoy the creative space, which I already knew, and I enjoy business, which is why a lot of companies have business and legal affairs or business affairs departments. That is what I really enjoy at a big place like your Apple or your Googles or your Disneys, they probably have multiple legal departments. So they have people who focus just on trademark, they have people who focus just on IP, they have people who focus on creative. And for me, I always knew I wanted to be on more the business affairs and creative side. That is why I did it. I also, the opportunity was presented to me and I thought it'd be a great next step. I will say I did have a time right when I graduated from law school that I did work at a firm and I worked in mergers and acquisitions. Again, great experience, great exposure. So I tell people it's okay if you like want to explore different things. I just knew I was always going to pivot back into creative. And it just so happens that I'm doing a lot on that side right now.
Yeah, I really like that. And thank you for that little side quest that you shared about being at mergers and acquisitions or working in that space. Because as much as I love a good spreadsheet, I don't know if I would want to do it all day, every day like that. And then, as creative as I am, the IP lawyers I met still weren't creative enough, right? We still were leaning heavily into the patent side. And I was like, I just wanted to color code my spreadsheet. And I was like, oh my gosh, I think
Yeah.
I need to work for myself, right? And so I like that you mentioned that, because there are a lot of lawyers, especially before they hit that 5 year mark, where they're just like, this isn't it. This isn't it.
Mhm.
What else can I do? And so I do think it's important that you can take pieces that you've learned from other places and then bring them together in your career, right? I made a note here. Is business affairs different from compliance, or can they kind of collaborate a little bit at a corporation?
I think it depends on the company and organization. I have seen certain companies that have people who work specifically on compliance, people who work in business affairs, and then some companies have business slash legal affairs, which it really just depends on the company. I don't do much compliance, but there are people, subsections within my team that solely focus on that.
Okay. And I'm asking that mostly for myself because I don't think I've spoken to a business affairs lawyer. So, yay, you'll be the first one.
There's so many. We definitely have to connect after this. There's so many people who work in business affairs, especially on the agency side. So I'm not sure if you're familiar with the agencies like UTA, CAA, WME. Like, there's so many people in business affairs that have law degrees. Yeah.
Even when I hear entertainment, I only think like agents. I don't even think about the business affairs portion, right? So I think that that is fascinating. I love that in another life I was in anthropology because I love to know how people get their careers, they merge them, they kind of fit it all together. So I think that's really important. Okay, so two questions left. When you told your family or whoever you grew up with, friends, whoever, I'm going to law school, were they like, oh, yeah, of course? Or were they kind of like, are you sure? What was that like?
Yeah. Oh, my family knew from young. Everybody supported me. I'm so grateful. I always had such a good, and I still have such a good circle. To say that, like, I think for some people, they have a lot of people who are like, oh, let's do this. And some people, may not have that. But again, I really encourage people that this is a journey that if you're confident in yourself, you probably can do it.
When I told my family, they were like, but you paint all day. And I was like, oh, it's fine. And that's what I do now is paint all day.
All
So,
day, yeah.
it worked
Different
out. It worked
chapters.
out. Yeah. I think honestly though, if I knew more lawyers, they probably could have either talked to me about the more creative sides of being a lawyer, or maybe they would have said, hey, you can put them all together. Or 10 years ago, that just was not a thing where people were saying, hey, create the career you want. And now people are saying that. So there could be some of that.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So, Victoria, the one question I ask every guest, what would you say to a young lawyer, 5 years practicing or less, or a law student about what they could do with their law degree?
I would say you can do anything. And I know it sounds cliche, but it's just a degree. It's not, it's just a piece of paper. It's a really helpful piece of paper. It's a great education, but there's lawyers who start their own businesses. One of my favorite people to watch is this content creator called Any Given Sunday. And she was a lawyer and she worked at a big law firm. And now she does content creation on social media platforms and travels the world and does beauty and makeup. And she seems to be doing great. So I think you should go to law school if it's something that really, really interests you and you want to work in the profession. However, when you graduate and you cross that stage and you collect your degree, just know that no doors should have closed. Like they're all still open.
That's the key. That's the key. All the doors are still open. It took me a long time to realize my legal education would go with me every single place. In a law firm, of course. But even now, I left that law firm 2021. And it's like I still have so many connections and links back to people I met or someone I interviewed when I was editor-in-chief from law school, or this person. Like, law school's like an octopus. Like, it will always connect you or intertwine you in all kinds of different things, whether you
For sure
use them in a career or in professional aspect or not, right? Even when we were buying our house and I was looking up stuff and I was like, oh, I need to know gas and oil rights. Wait, who's an expert I know from law school? Like, it's everywhere. It's everywhere. So
it's a
I love that.
Have. I'm really happy that you went, regardless, like you're doing something amazing now, but it's still nice that we went.
Yes, absolutely. I would be a completely different person if I didn't go. Completely different. Well, thank you so much, Victoria. Would you please share the website, Juris Education, and how people can connect with you?
Yeah. So again, the website is juriseducation.com. You can go on there. You'll be able to see my profile and other tutors and counselors that work with Juris Education. Me personally, again, my name is Victoria Inoyo. You can find me on the website as well. Feel free to reach out. Honestly, I'm happy to always just talk, have conversations, whether we decide to work together or not. But I don't gatekeep information. So feel free.
And I certainly don't. You guys know that for 6 years, I've been sharing cool and unique lawyers on this podcast and all the fun things that they're doing with their law degrees. So thank you so much, Victoria. I appreciate it. And you have a great rest of your day.
You too. Thank you so much for having me. It was a pleasure.
Thanks.